There is hardly a person who does not care about the question of what happens after death. Even those who hide behind cynicism and pretend that they don't care, in fact, like everyone else, are thinking about whether there is an afterlife. Fortunately, people with the gift of clairvoyance and the ability to communicate with the dead refute the well-established opinion that there is nothing beyond the line of existence, and that all we are waiting for is eternal sleep and oblivion. In fact, it's not like that. Life on the other side of death is much more complicated and mysterious than many of us used to think. One of the clairvoyants who opened the veil of mystery of the afterlife to the living was Maurice Barbanel. Thanks to him, we have the opportunity to learn about what happens after death, so to speak, firsthand, from those who are already in the next world, but still try to tell us important things. Maurice Barbanel claimed to have the gift of direct voice, that is, the ability to speak with the voices of the dead. The dead do not have their own voice, but with the help of subtle energies that are picked up by particularly receptive mediums, they can transmit their messages from the otherworldly space. Maurice Barbanel discovered the gift of a direct voice in himself as a child, and since then, he has been able to contact residents of other spheres. Many people came to him with the hope of receiving news from deceased relatives. He never refused anyone, but tried to carefully document every case of contact with the dead. As a result, he had an impressive collection of such transcripts, which he published in the form of books. In these books, you can find answers to the question of what really happens after a person dies. Maurice Barbanel believed that such information is unique, since they are not just assumptions, but information transmitted directly by those souls who are in the afterlife. In one of his books, Maurice Barbanel said the following: "There is hardly a person who would not consider death a tragic event. However, death is not exactly a tragedy, as it represents the liberation of the soul from many years of imprisonment in a material body. After this liberation, a life without pain and suffering awaits the soul." According to Barbanel, the fact of death is associated with the grief of those who remain. But for those who leave, it is just a new stage of existence. Barbanel claimed that the day after the end of life, the deceased remains the same person as the day before. Nevertheless, he noted that those who assume that sleep awaits a person after death are partly right. After the end of earthly existence, the soul may indeed be in a kind of sleep for some time, which helps it adapt to a new life. But then, a completely different existence will begin, although in some ways, it will be similar to earthly existence. According to Barbanel, the difference is that the soul will leave its physical body, and existence will continue in a spiritual shell, which is an exact copy of the earthly body, but without the typical problems associated with the flesh. The spiritual body is unaware of infirmities and diseases. Those who were deaf during their lifetime will be able to hear, those who were mute will be able to speak again, and those who were blind will become sighted. All diseases, no matter how severe, will disappear. Old family and friendships in another world will be restored. In the otherworldly space, you will meet all those who left before you, but only if you still have an emotional connection with them. Moreover, this connection can be not only positive, in the form of love and affection, but also negative, for example, in the form of unforgiven resentments or hatred. Those who are in the spiritual world have the ability to know in advance when this or that earthly life will end, so they prepare in advance to welcome the newly arrived spirit and help him to undergo the necessary acclimatization. This confirms the fact that before death, some people say that they see dead relatives near them. However, meetings with friends and family in the spiritual world can be short-lived. The law of attraction applies here, and only those with similar spiritual qualities will be in the same otherworldly sphere. So, spouses who did not love each other in their earthly life will not be together in the next world. In one of his works entitled "They Will Be Comforted," Barbanel wrote, "We are surrounded by an invisible spiritual world that is not located on a remote continent or another planet, but merges with our physical world. This is confirmed by those people who can tune in to the vibration of the spiritual world and hear and see it. Therefore, each of us, after death, will fall into the spiritual realm that corresponds to his lived life and character. Each soul will automatically find itself in the sphere of astral existence for which it is most adapted. In the afterlife, it will not be possible to pretend that we are better than we are. Nothing can be hidden there. Everyone will know everything. Everyone will know what they really are. In the spiritual world, no one can deceive another. A villain will remain a villain, and a kind person will remain kind. And unfortunately, it is very difficult to change it there. Therefore, it is so important who a person became during his lifetime, what character traits he developed, and what actions he committed. People who have lived a normal life will not find anything to disappoint them when they arrive in the spiritual world. However, a selfish person will face great difficulties because of his earthly habits, which will become an obstacle to his existence in the otherworldly space. This will be his personal hell. Of course, those who dwell on higher planes can, if they so wish, visit spirits on lower levels. They often do so. But those on lower planes cannot visit those on higher planes. The souls of the dead also informed the medium that for many, life in the spiritual world may seem too ghostly, because only the material seems real to us. However, for those who live on the other side, only the spiritual is real, and the physical seems to them to be a shadow. Maurice Barbanel argued that we can form an idea of spiritual life if we think about our dreams. When we sleep, all things in a dream seem real to us, but when we wake up, we begin to consider them something ghostly. If we think about the state of sleep, then this state is quite real for us. Clairvoyance, relying on messages from the other world, claim that life in the spiritual world is as active as our earthly one. Every inhabitant of the afterlife begins to develop his natural inclinations. There are many people in earthly life with a beautiful voice, but they do not sing. There are many talented artists who will never paint a single painting in their entire lives. There are many born poets who won't write a line. These people may not find out about their talent because their minds are busy looking for a livelihood. In the spiritual world, on the contrary, they will have the opportunity to develop their talents as fully as possible. Many people have asked Maurice Barbanel about the ordinary life of the soul in the otherworldly space. He replied that although there are houses and clothes on the other side of existence, it does not take time and effort to create these benefits. Houses in the spiritual world are not built of bricks, but of astral fluids. They are created by the power of thought, just like everything else. According to Barbanel, the inhabitants of the spiritual world not only work, but also relax and have fun. There is an opportunity for learning in every sphere of the otherworldly space. The inhabitants of another world receive new knowledge in the form in which they wish to receive it. Many in the spiritual world are engaged in tasks involving cooperation with people in our world. Some of them work hard to help facilitate the connection between the two worlds. Others are engaged in research and inventions in various fields. Some of these spirits inspire people to make discoveries. However, people in the earthly world often do not realize this spiritual help. There are no language difficulties in the afterlife. Words are not used here, which are only an artificial and rather clumsy means of communication. All ideas are conveyed through thought. Maurice Barbanel argued that although in the afterlife it may seem that mortal life does not make sense, because it will be better in the next world, this is not the case. He said that on earth each of us has important tasks. By them he meant spiritual service. Barbanel claimed that only the one who lived his life for a reason, who helped guide a lost person to the light, who created something beautiful, who helped the needy, who healed the sick, comforted the grieving, and so on. In one of his books, Maurice Barbanel wrote that the most important message he received from the spiritual world was that we should never forget that the highest goal of our life is the unfolding of the spirit. If we strive to express all the deepest and greatest things in ourselves, we will thereby attract beings from the spiritual world who love us, want to help us, and through us help other people. Write in the comments how right this medium is, in your opinion, and what do you think awaits you in the afterlife. Dear friends, thank you for watching my video to the end. If you liked it, please like it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It's very important. Thank you, and have a nice day.